In a world where cinema reigns supreme, join us on an epic journey through the silver screen. Welcome to What's New with Stu, a movie review, with your host Dave Stewart, a video podcast where every frame tells a story. Get ready for insights, laughs, and film debates. From blockbusters to hidden gems, we've got it all covered. Lights, camera, action. It's time for What's New with Stu, a movie review. And now your host, David F. Stewart.
It's Jay. Sebring. I think I don't know.
I know he's beat all to hell, but you're pretty sure.
Oh my God, Jared.
In the immortal words of the late great Benny Hill. Good evening, viewers. Good evening, all. Welcome to another episode of What's New with Stu, a movie review. I'm your host, Dave Stewart, and in this episode, the 1976 made-for-TV crime drama HELTER, SKELTER.
Sunday, 2 days after the Tate murders.
I saw all the shades down and the boat in the driveway and the light on in the kitchen. And still Mom and Lino didn't answer when I kept knocking.
HELTER, SKELTER is a 1976 American true crime drama thriller television film based on the 1974 book by prosecutor Vincent Bugliosi and Kurt Gentry. In the United States, it aired over 2 nights. The movie is based on the murders committed by the Charles Manson family. The best-known victim was pregnant actress Sharon Tate. It recounts the murders Manson committed, the investigation, and the 1970-71 trial. The film was directed by Tom Grise, starring Steve Railsback as Manson and George DiCenzo as Bugliosi. Now, I've always been fascinated by the story of HELTER, SKELTER since I was a little kid. And when I saw the film, I guess when it aired in 1976, I was about 11 years old, and it scared the hell out of me, especially the ending, which I'll explain later why that was.
You're about to see a dramatization of factual facts, in which some of the names have been changed. But the story is true. If it were not true, it would not be believable, for it is surely one of the most bizarre chapters in the history of crime. We may not like to accept the fact that people such as some of those in the story of HELTER, SKELTER exist in our life, and yet they do. And while they do, we cannot say that the story of HELTER, SKELTER is ended.
The Manson killings, as they would be called, in the 2 nights of August 9th and August 10th, 1969, was the O.J. Simpson moment of its time. It was the trial of the century at the time, until, of course, Simpson would eclipse that. But at the time, this fascinated the country. It was the longest trial at the time, I believe over 9 months. What was fascinating about the case was the fact that these murders just were so random. They didn't have to happen.
Tex got in the car and we started to drive away. And then Charlie said, "Leave a sign. You girls know what I mean. Something witchy."
You know, the Manson family, which lived at Spawn Ranch and were from place to place, where Manson basically took in people that had nowhere else to go. They were hungry. Maybe a mother was pregnant, had nothing for her child to be born, and Manson would take them in. He would take any money they had or anything he would deem valuable, and he'd say, "I'm going to take care of you." And he had them convinced that he was actually Jesus Christ to many of them, which is kind of a shocking thing to think. And he somehow was able to seduce them into this theory that he was a prophet and that they would follow him and he would take them to the promised land.
Paul, you seem like an independent sort of guy, not just a follower. And yet you stayed with the family for a long time. Was it just the girls, or was there some other reason?
I thought Charlie was crazed.
Helter Skelter is based on the 1974 book, as I had mentioned, with Vincent Bugliosi, who was the lead prosecutor in L.A. for a while. I believe he lost only one out of like 100 cases. He's kind of a no bullshit type of guy. He's very logical, practical. He was able to convict Manson on these charges of murder, though Manson didn't actually commit those murders. There's been stories where he committed other murders. One of the nights he did go into the house and tied two people up, the LaBiancas. Other than that, he didn't kill anybody, but he had his followers do it. Basically, 3 women and 1 man killed 7 people, 5 in the first night. And the cops at first didn't even connect these 2 events. They thought they were just separate murders. And even though there were very similar circumstances with the writing on the walls and blood on both of them and, you know, the whole death to pigs and Helter Skelter and all this, it took a while for Bugliosi and the cops to put the pieces together. And it's a real fascinating study.
If all the wounds were made by the LaBianca kitchen knives and no other knives, the logical inference would be the defendants entered the LaBianca residence unarmed, then proceeded to kill the LaBiancas with their kitchen knives. Defense counsel could raise a very good point. If Manson sent these people out to kill the LaBiancas, why would he have sent them unarmed?
All right.
So Bugliosi took on this case, and he ended up winning. But the thing that he had to prove, how could Manson convince these people to just do these random murders for him when they didn't know him, obviously weren't there for the money per se? That's not what it was about. Why would they do this? Because he told them to? A motive. That's what he didn't have, and that's this motive that Manson wanted to do what's called Helter Skelter.
According to Charlie, Blackie would rise up, and start committing these super atrocious crimes against Whitey. And this would start a race war. Whitey and Blackie would fight each other. And the hippie liberals and the uptight conservatives would fight each other. The Uncle Toms would fight the Panthers, and it'd be Helter Skelter. War of all wars. And then the family will emerge from the bottomless pit. And Charlie will be king of the world. And we'll all live happily ever after.
And then all that's left is the family and the black servants?
According to the gospel of Charlie.
I know it sounds crazy, but this is what Bugliosi actually presented to a jury, and he got them to go with it. Now, when you watch the scenes, by the way, of the courtroom, it's quite obvious that Manson and his followers are just completely bonkers.
I'm the devil. And the devil always shaves his head. I don't see how you people get by with this without letting me put on some kind of defense. You people ain't got no authority over me. Half of you ain't as good as I am.
If they would have came across a little more reasonable and held it together, maybe they could have, I'm not saying gotten off, but it's so obvious these guys did what they said. And by the way, the reason they had a star witness, a woman named Linda Kasabian, who was there both nights, especially the first night, she actually saw murders, and she came to the ranch, she had a child, and they took her in. She didn't want to kill anybody, and she didn't. And at first she was arrested and was going to be convicted, but then she turned evidence against the other ones and said, listen, I had nothing to do with this. And she struck a plea deal, and she wasn't incarcerated.
Then I did. Oh, God. I'm so sorry. Say, please, make it stop. I hear people coming. And she said, it's too late.
Now, the one key, of course, performance in this movie is Steve Railsback as Charles Manson. When the first time we see Manson, it's a great introductory of a character in any film I've ever seen.
If we leave you here, will you tell us what you know?
You're damn right. It's not nice to snitch, Shorty.
Charles Mills Manson, also known as Jesus Christ, God, Soul, the Devil. Charles Willis Manson, born No Name Maddox, November 12, 1934. Mother, Kathleen Maddox, lived with a succession of men, married briefly to William Manson, who gave young Charles his last name.
He is so unbelievable as Manson. In fact, when I watch Railsback as Manson in this film, I think he plays Charlie better than Charlie did in real life.
He's the judge who hears our request to extradite Watson so that we can try him on 7 counts of murder and who grants delay after delay to the client of the son of his campaign manager. That's who he is.
That's funny. That hasn't happened before. My watch stopped.
Uncanny how he looks like him. He's a tiny guy like Manson was. Manson was not a big man at all. Just the way he talks, the way he presents himself, most of it's kind of over the top at times, but Manson was over the top. If you've ever seen him.
If you don't stop, I'll have you removed. I've got a little system.
Call the next witness.
Do you think I'm kidding?
Railsback has one scene in particular in the courtroom.
I'm a reflection of you. I'm what you made me. I've tried my best to get along in your world. And now you say you want to kill me. I'm already dead. I have been all my life. I spent 23 years in tombs that you built. Sometimes I want to give it all back to you. Sometimes I just want to jump on you and let you shoot me. If I could, I'd grab this microphone and I'd beat your brains out with it because that's what you deserve. That's what you deserve.
He knows he's not going to get off. You could sense that he's, realize his fate. But he says these things anyway, and there is some truth into some of the things that he tells the courtroom at the time. The jury was not present for this, but he was allowed to talk.
Is it a conspiracy that the music is telling the youth to rise up against the establishment because the establishment is rapidly destroying things? Is that a conspiracy? The music speaks to you every day, but you're too deaf, dumb, and blind to listen.
Railsback as Manson does not have a lot of screen time in the film. I mean, he's got a decent amount, but not a lot. But it's kind of like Hannibal Lecter in Silence of the Lambs. It doesn't matter. He haunts the film.
And what about your children, huh? What about them? You say they're just a few? Well, there are many, many more. And they're running in the streets. They're all running in the same direction, and they're running right at you.
Now, a lot of other great performances, especially by an actress who played Susan Atkins. She is chilling. She reminds me of like Lady Macbeth.
I went back in the house and walked over to Sharon Tate, and I heard sounds. Gurgling sounds like blood flowing into the body out of the heart. And at the same time, I saw that she was pregnant. And I knew that there was a living being inside of that body, and I wanted to, but I didn't have the courage to go ahead and take it.
We have a grand juror who would like to be excused for just a couple of minutes.
And by the way, the 3 women that were involved and convicted in the Tate-Labianca murders, Susan Atkins, Leslie Van Houten, and Patricia Kremwinkle, have all basically renounced everything that they did when they were in prison. I think, I don't know if they all died. I think a couple have passed away. They've denounced Charlie. They have remorse for what they did. I mean, at least they have remorse, I guess. It's better than not having, which course Manson never did. I don't think he's even admitted to his dying day. And by the way, there's an obsession with Manson even now. Jeffrey Dahmer comes to mind and a lot of famous killers, but Manson, one of the most notoriously famous. I mean, you see people walk around with that famous picture of him where it looks like his eyes are cross-eyed. Marilyn Manson, when he took his name as an artist, took half the name from Marilyn Monroe, the other half from Charles Manson. He has been kind of one of those characters in his history like Adolf Hitler where people just seem to be drawn to him. And I have to admit, even in a weird way, I've been drawn to the character, not because I admire him. I don't know. I found the whole thing fascinating. And of course, the whole country did. It's why it was the trial of the century until, again, O.J. Simpson trial would surpass it. This is a made-for-TV movie, but there's a lot of great things about this. I think the movie without commercials is 3 hours long, but when they aired it, it was like a 4-hour event. The movie is just so engaging. The opening scene, for example, when the maid discovers Susan Tate, who was a movie star at the time and married to the famed director Roman Polanski, who was an Oscar-nominated director When they found the bodies, there's a scene where she comes running out, which is just chilling. By the way, the musical score is very haunting. I love the music.
The foothills and canyons above Beverly Hills, California, in the early morning hours of Saturday, August 9, 1969.
By the way, the title of the movie, if you didn't know, was sung by the Beatles from their White Album called Helter Skelter. But the funny thing was, Helter Skelter, which was written by McCartney, is about his childhood remembrance of going on a roller coaster. Manson would use the Bible and the Beatles music from the White Album to teach his followers about what was going down with Helter Skelter.
The Beatles laid that on him. You know, that White Album of theirs, man, that blew Charlie's mind, man. He said it was beautiful. Charlie said that the Beatles were sending messages through their music, you know, like that song Revolution 9. But Charlie dug it the most, man. He said it was beautiful.
It's incredible to think that people would have killed people they didn't know, innocent people, because of these weird theories that Manson presented. But that's what happened. And Bugliosi was able to convince a jury, yep, he's guilty.
We, the jury, in the above entitled action, find the defendant, Charles Manson, guilty of the crime of murder of Abigail Folger in violation of Section 187, Penal Code of California, of felony as charged in count 1 of the indictment, and we further find it to be murder of the first degree.
Susan Atkins, guilty of 1 count of conspiracy to commit murder and 7 counts of murder in the first degree. Leslie Van Houten, 1 count of conspiracy to commit murder and 2 counts of murder in the first degree. Patricia Krenwinkel, guilty of 1 count of conspiracy to commit murder and 7 counts of murder in the first degree.
Now, the end of Helter Skelter, I'll never forget, and this is the part that really scared me as a kid when I saw it in 1976, when the 3 women, Tex Watson and Manson, all got the death penalty for what they did, the second phase of the trial. What was scary was at the end of Helter Skelter, telling the fate of the characters, and they said,
on February 18th, 1972, the California State Supreme Court voted to abolish the death penalty in the state of California. The death sentences of the convicted killers in the Manson family were automatically reduced to life imprisonment. Manson himself becomes eligible to apply for parole in 1978.
And I remember thinking, oh my God, Manson can be out in 7 years. How can that? And my first thought was, wait a minute, how can that be? How can any law? They basically convicted him not killing 1 person, 7 people, all of them, and they're eligible for parole? They were going to kill them, got rid of the death penalty. I'm sorry. If you kill anyone for murder, especially premeditated murder, I don't care if it's 50 years, no way. So anyway, that was the kind of, I remember that sitting there as a child going, oh my God, Manson's going to be walking the street. And of course, that didn't happen. Manson, no matter what he would have said, done, promised, he was never going to get out, mainly because even if the parole board felt he wasn't a threat and paid his dues, there's nowhere that the public would ever accept Charles Manson walking around free. Can you imagine that? It was never going to happen. Anyway, go watch Helter Skelter. It might be a tough film to find. Again, it was made for TV. Do not see the remake of 2004. I mean, you can see it, but go see the original first. Great film, and great history. And in the immortal words of the late, great Benny Hill, good night, viewers. Good night, all. We'll see you next time, and we'll see you at the movies.